everybody, it's me Alexa, and today we're going to be talking about the movie Virus. Virus is a 2019 Malayalam film directed by Ashik Abu and starring a large list of amazingly talented cast. Some of them, there's Kunchako Boban, Tovino Thomas, Indrajith Sukumaran, Asif Ali, Sobin Shahir, and just you can keep going. There's a beautiful ensemble of incredibly talented people in this film. So this is a spoiler-free review. It is based on real events, so few of the more commonly known details about the real event I'm going to discuss. So if you really don't want to know anything and want to learn it all during the movie, then I'd recommend skipping ahead to my final thoughts. But yeah, I think you can watch. I knew everything that I'm gonna say in this before going into the movie, and it didn't take away from the experience at all, in my opinion. Also, feel free to stick around. I'm gonna do a brief COVID talk because I realized I haven't really done one since my Virus trailer, which I rewatched that a while ago. So maybe just do a little bit. It's now been I watched it. So I did the trailer reaction back in March. So it has now been how many months in March? 5 months since March, so almost half a year since I did that. So about time to talk about COVID again, I guess. So at the end, after my shark rating, after everything, I'm gonna do a quick little COVID discussion. Feel free to stick around for that. Right now, or honestly the past couple months and probably the upcoming few months, is the perfect time to watch this movie, as it is about a virus that spreads very fast and how a place deals with it. So it is of course based on true events, back a Nipah virus outbreak that happened in Kerala. I hope I'm saying it right. I've been practicing trying to say it right because I realized I've been saying it wrong in all of my videos. So Kerala, please correct me if that's still wrong. But a real case of the Nipah virus which broke out there, and the Nipah virus is extremely deadly. It has a 50 to 75% death rate, but it's also a very uncommon virus. So whenever it came up, they didn't really test for it first. That's one of the last things that they test after everything they can think of comes up negative. And so that's what happened. So it was able to spread because of the fact that they didn't think at all that that's what the person had who first came in. They're like, oh, he just has a fever, they think it's just a normal routine illness because that's normally what happens. It was really incredible to watch this story of doctors and other healthcare professionals and also the government working together to help stop this virus before it became a huge issue, because it's so deadly. As I said, 50 to 75% is the normal one, and then actually in this situation, 19 people total were infected, and of those, 17 of them died, which is actually an 89.5% death rate. So this virus is not one to mess around with, and it's extremely impressive. You can see, and by watching this movie, you can see the huge amount of work that went into making it so it was only 19 cases. 19 is still, it's too many deaths from a truly horrible virus, but they did a really amazing job of, once they realized what it was, they acted fast and they made all the right calls. They followed WHO's guidelines and they did what they needed to do to make sure that this virus didn't spread to kill more and more people, because it's almost, if you get it, you're more likely to die than not. And that's terrifying. That in itself, it has an extremely engaging story concept, and especially because it is based on real events, and these are real people that we are watching actors portray. And to know that adds such a level of intensity to the movie. Because of course you're watching it and slowly it's spreading and spreading, and they're trying to figure out what it is, and then they are going through all the different actions of trying to prevent it from spreading. They do the tracing and all that to see who could possibly have interacted with the first patients. So the film did start out a little bit slow. I would say the first little over half of it was pretty slow moving. However, the final bit of it actually did go really fast. It was interesting. So the first bit I was this is taking a little while as they did all the setup and they established all the different characters, and then as even they start to figure out what's going on, it's a little slower. But then in the end, whenever it kind of all happens, it actually went really fast, and I was like, oh wow, we're at the end already. And I think that the slower pace really did lend to this movie, because so again, it's a real story. I feel like I keep saying that too much. But so it is Like, one thing I've noticed about most Malayalam films that I've seen so far, there's still a million out there, I've only seen a couple, but what I've seen so far is they do feel really realistic. But this is the first one I've watched that's actually like based on a true story. So they utilize their already great ability in this industry to make a real feeling film and then bring it to real events with real people and, you know, a real tragedy. And it's really hard to take a true event, especially one where there are deaths, and do it in a way that is not only respectful to the dead, but honoring the situation that occurred. And I think that this film did a beautiful job of creating this movie and showing the different hardships that different people had to go through. Because of course you have the people who became ill, their families, the doctors who have to be around it, the attendees who are risking their lives, and like so people have to like stay away from their families. And there's so many different emotions and struggles going on of varying degrees across all these different people. And it's such a beautiful just like collage of lives. And there are so many characters in this, and every single one is equally as important as the other. Like, I could not tell you who the main character of this movie is. You could make an argument probably for a couple, but I feel like it's more enjoyable if you look at it as this beautiful, like, tapestry of just different characters and lives and real people who these characters are based on. And so off of that though, the acting was amazing all around. There's not a single weak link on that front. The writing was great to deliver all the lines. It all felt natural, and the delivery of the lines was just as natural as the writing was. So that helped add to that realistic feel. So there's like a couple times in the movie that you do feel really sad. And then there's also, so of course at the end they end up beating it. Obviously this was an outbreak in 2018. It is concluded. And there's this beautiful moment there that I couldn't help but smile during. I won't give any away of like what it is or anything, but it felt so, like I felt the relief of that moment, you know? And that's not an easy thing to achieve in a film, and they did it just so good. And I think that that slow movement of the movie helped to add to that impact of the final moments. And then that goes into, like, even whenever it is slow, I think that the editing pacing is really well done, and as well as the shot composition. Every single shot and cut of this movie felt purposeful and never took you out of it. Like, it kept you engaged in the world of the people that you're watching the whole time. And like, that was honestly, I think, one of the biggest things about this movie is I never really felt like I was watching a movie. I almost felt more like watching a documentary about it. But like, it was like real, this is what's happening. And I think that that can be, you know, a big testament to the director, Ashik Abu, as well as the three writers for the film, who are Musin Parari, Sharfu, and Suhas. All of them, and as well as the acting. I mean, every part of the movie went into making it feel like you were there experiencing it alongside these people, and it created for a very emotional and powerful experience. Also, one thing I appreciated is there wasn't really any like songs in the movie, which I think suited the film very well. I don't think it would have been, I love songs in movies, as you all know, but I don't think it would have been appropriate in this case, so I'm very happy that they did choose to leave that element out. However, they did have some great scoring and background music. Again, just with everything else in the film, it worked to help build the emotional impact of it and helped you feel the scenes. The use of the music, it was never overpowering. Music was always just kind of there, and a presence that allowed you to feel the emotions better, as, you know, music can do. It, you know, has that beautiful effect, music, and I think that it was utilized perfectly in this film. But yeah, this is a quicker review. Overall, I think that the movie was just really well executed on all fronts. I don't really have any faults with it, besides maybe it's a little slow. I also do sometimes like slow movies. It has their place, and I think this was the perfect place for it. I think this is an example of when to use slowness in movies. I think the most beautiful thing this film was able to create was the feeling of all these people coming together in a truly just terrible situation. Something that could separate and, you know, make people argue and fight, but they didn't. They came together and they fought it together, and they did an amazing job of containing this horribly deadly virus in a way that wouldn't have been able to be accomplished if they didn't work together so effectively. And that was something that was both very inspiring to watch, because you're like, it can happen, like people can do it, and also a little saddening just because why isn't it happening everywhere today? But we'll talk more about COVID in a second. Now let's go into that shark rating. I again debated between some categories like every single time. But overall, I think that they had a story and they pieced it together beautifully, and they focused on all the right things about the story. There is a lot of things you could have focused on with a movie based on a true event. You can, there's always so many different aspects of what happened in the moment, and you have to pick which thing you want your movie to be about. And I think that they picked the best thing that they could have in this situation. They chose to make it about the characters and the emotional struggles that they went through. And I think that it was the best and most effective way to tell this story. And at least the most impactful way to tell this story. Because of that, I am going to be giving it another great white shark rating, because I think that it's an extremely important movie that shows you human emotions in a way that is not easy to portray. And it's also, I think, today's time makes it even more important because of what the world is going through. So if you've not seen this movie, go and watch it right now. I'm not kidding. Go now. It's on Prime. I'm sure you can find it other places too. And just go and watch it. It's worth your time. So I don't want to talk too much about COVID, but I would like to just give a little update, I think, on my life with COVID as well as the world, because I talked about it a bit in my virus trailer reaction, but it's been a while. So I did indeed quit my job. I rewatched my trailer reaction to see what I said then, but yeah, so I did indeed quit my job because they weren't taking it seriously. They now are, it seems, as a store. So like I went in to buy stuff the other day, and it seems like they're doing a lot better now. But it was, I think, the right call at the time because they were not being serious enough about it, and I didn't want to be at risk from it. I've been largely self-quarantining. I feel like I got pretty lucky with the timing of COVID, wish the most likely would be it's never happened, but I had just graduated this past December, so I was living at home still while like about to move out, like starting to make my plans for moving. And then COVID started before I like had any concrete plans, so it kind of worked out that I was able to stay at home in a situation where I'm secure. And that just, it just worked out pretty well for me, because if I had have already moved, I would have been in a much, much worse situation. I had some friends who had already moved and stuff, and they ended up having some tricky situations with like leases and like, that they couldn't pay and other stuff like that. So overall, I am very thankful for how I've been able to deal with the virus. And I know that there's many others who have not been given as much ability to avoid it as I have. And I'm very aware of that and appreciative of what I'm able to have. And I think it's just such a horrible disease. And now, I don't know, you've all probably seen. So, of course, our leader guy got it, and he survived it because he had access to medical supplies that we don't have access to. And even if we did, it would literally bankrupt us to pay for that. Meanwhile, he didn't pay any taxes, and that's what was used to pay for his treatment. So I'm really glad that any money I've earned in the past couple of years, some of it's going towards that so that he can get special treatment over everyone else while they suffer. But I have no opinions on that, obviously. We're not gonna get too much into politics. Vote for Biden, though. I will say that if you live in America, if you are an American citizen, please, please, please go vote for Biden. Oh my word, I'm genuinely terrified. But that's all I'll say about that. I'll leave talking about politics to people who do know more, because I know a fair amount, but yeah, just vote for Biden. With COVID, so now there's even more misinformation going out about how it's easy to beat and, not a big deal. Don't be scared of it. When obviously you should still be taking precautions. And, so to prevent myself from going into a long rant about the world, I think I'm going to kind of just say a little quick thing about just stay home if you can. If you're unable to stay home, then make sure that you are social distancing and washing both your hands and any surfaces around you as often as you're able to, and just doing everything you can to prevent the spread of the virus. And I think that that is all that we can do as individuals, and I think that that is the most important thing we can do. Wear a mask, wash your hands, stand a few feet away from people whenever you're near, if you're in a situation around other people, stand a few feet away. And just do those little things that, yes, some of them are minorly inconveniencing, but that's not a word. Just doing those little things, which, yes, they're minor inconveniences, But just doing that could save so many lives. Because every one spread is like so many more people. Because you know what, that's how it branches out. And that's why there's so many people infected around the world. If you give it to one person, they give it to another person, they give it to another person. You know, you give it to 10 people, each of those 10 people give it to 10 more people, you know, etc., etc. I don't know the exact numbers or statistics for COVID in that sense. I don't think anyone does because the tracing. Because there's so much misinformation. But you know, and so the best thing that you can do is just keep you and your family safe. Don't go into large groups if you can't avoid it. If you have to be in them, try and stand away from people, wear a mask, wash, everything. And so just following those lines and just doing what you can. Even if it feels like it's insignificant and it's not helping, doing that small thing yourself has more of an impact than you could ever imagine in the rest of the world. Because you are preventing one more person from being sick. And even just that, saving one more person from even having to go through the trauma of being sick and alone is, I think, important enough to follow anything that's inconvenience, like that may inconvenience me. So yeah, that is my thoughts on it, and I please implore all of you guys to please just be safe, as I say at the end of all my videos, and yeah, just continue to be safe, guys. All right. That is all I have to say about the virus movie and COVID-19. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to hit that like button, subscribe, check out our Patreon, link in the description below. And hope you all are staying safe out there and have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!